r/AskReddit. What is the creepiest glitch in the Matrix you've experienced? Second part. I had an Android phone which had a Google Cards feature option that could notify you like 15 minutes to home if you were out. I thought this feature was annoying and useless, so I kept the feature off. After several months of no cards notifications, one night I'm at home and a card pops up saying 35 minutes to home, pinning me at a random intersection on the other side of town. Let's call it First Street Story. I think that's weird. I'm not even way over there. I don't even know where that is. I've never been to that area. I go to my card setting to turn it back off, but it's already turned off. That's weird. Next night, exact same thing happens. 35 minutes to home from First Street and Story. What the? Still definitely not over there. Check cards feature, and the notifications are still turned off, so no idea why I'm getting a notification. Few days later, a friend and I are out running errands, and he misses his intended exit, so he takes the next one. Once on the streets, I ask, where are we? I've never been over here. Suddenly a car to our right tries to turn left and crashes right into us. Messed up the wheel to be unable to turn, so he pulled forward to the curb to call a tow truck. We had our kids in the car, so I call my sister to pick us all up. When my sister asks me for the location, I look up at the street signs. It's First Street and Story. How long did it take you to get home though? 35 minutes. I was 11 or 12, early 70s. Dad came home one Friday and announced we were going to Kings Island, a fairly new amusement park, tomorrow. I begged him to let me invite my friend Chris to come along. He said okay, as long as Chris could pay his own way. Great. Off to the phone I went. Pick it up, no dial tone. Hello. Is that you? Chris. I was just calling you, what's up? I was calling to ask if you'd like to come to Kings Island tomorrow, but you have to pay your own way. No phone ever rang. We both called each other at the same time to ask the exact same thing. That's pretty cool. It bothered me for some time. Was going down the stairs and went past my brother who was coming up the stairs, said hi and he sort of mumbled back. Got downstairs and walked through to the kitchen, only to find him standing there. What the hell? I've had a crazy similar thing happen. It was like 4 in the morning and I'm quite the night owl, so I'm headed downstairs to grab something to drink. The kitchen is separated from the living room by a dividing wall, but I realize someone is in there because I can see a person's shadow from around the corner. I think to myself, oh, Romad must be up already. Maybe he has something to do. So as I turn corner I say, hey, good morning. And immediately feel like an idiot and get a chill up my spine because no one is in the kitchen besides me. I search the entire first floor of the house frantically and no one is there. So I head back upstairs and knock on my roommate's door. No answer, so I slowly open the door. Roommate is passed out asleep and doesn't seem like he is waking up anytime soon. There is no way he could have made it back up to his room that fast without running, and I would have noticed because the floors are creaky, especially on the staircase. When he woke up in the morning I told him about what had happened. His eyes got real wide and he turned pale. He looked me right in the eye and said, that isn't a funny joke, don't duck with me. Turns out he had been having bad dreams all night about someone being in the house who shouldn't have been. But whenever he confronted the person he could never see their face. All that was there was a black silhouette. Haven't had that experience since, and we agree not to talk to each other about it. I think most of the people here have experienced the something falls down and seemingly disappears thing, but the exact opposite happened to me a couple of months ago. Basically me and a bunch of friends were standing in a circle in our school's hallway when suddenly we heard something fall. We all simultaneously looked at the floor and there was a small silver foreign coin, Swiss I think, just laying there. I picked it up and asked if any of them had dropped it, and they all denied. I looked around and there was nowhere it could have come from, and the hallway was empty, so there was no one who could have thrown it. Later we joked that someone in Switzerland probably dropped it and is now frantically looking for it. I still have the coin in my locker, so if anyone wants pictures, I can take them when Monday rolls around. I always have weird visions, or I'll see something in a dream, but I won't notice that I've seen it. Then like a week or so after, I'll see the exact same thing, almost like déjà vu, but not quite, since it hasn't actually happened before. It would always be something so specific, and it has happened multiple times, so it can't just be a strange coincidence. Wait, this happens to me too. I'll have a dream where something is happening in the background or I'm doing something and I don't register it, and then a few weeks later I'll see it in real life. I'll then realize that I saw it in a dream. Had a dream of some kid that I had never seen before dancing at a busy party. He was wearing a blue shirt, black pants, had Bieber hair, and there was a purple strobe light on the wall behind him. Wake up, think to myself, what an odd dream, and carry on with my life. Several years later I was at my cousin's wedding reception, chillin' and hanging out with a different cousin. Music comes on, and we start jumping up and down, and then I realized that I was reliving the dream. Same clothes, same hair, same purple lighting in the background. Two things. Each was witnessed by at least one other person, and both were while driving. Once at a stop sign in a neighborhood. All of these little sparkles started swirling around in midair roughly 3 to 4 feet off the ground out of nowhere. The group of them were roughly 2 feet wide by 3 to 4 feet tall. It lasted 3 to 5 seconds, and then they were gone. No one was around, and when I asked my passenger if he saw it too, he breathed a sigh of relief and said yes. We spoke about it a little more, but there is no reasonable explanation. The second happened when myself and 3 friends were driving down an empty country road. Very straight stretch. A man on a bike appeared. Someone said to watch out for him, so not to hit him, and then he disappeared. Our minds were blown, to say the least. Just poof and he's gone. Someone in your party leveled up. I've had something similar to the man on the bike thing. No drugs, well rested, etc. Driving down a road where you can clearly see everything, no places to hide and jump out, etc. No hills/curves that could hide a person. I'm an extremely alert driver and was speeding, so I was paying attention. Scan the road ahead, check rear mirror, check right mirror, road ahead, check left mirror, scan the road ahead. Repeat basically until I decide to look at the view to the left. For like 0.1 second. Probably less. Look back to the road ahead. This person, it's walking along the road away from me. I immediately got chills and was legit scared. They were not close yet, no danger of hitting them. What scared me is they literally just appeared, and my lizard brain was saying something is very off about them. I went past them and wanted to look in the mirror to see this thing. I couldn't though, because I was afraid of what I would see or what would happen, which is not like me. Was really weird. This one is more silly than creepy, but once when I went with my grandmother to her friend's house, I was on the porch by myself with the grandmother's friend's cat, and the cat looked me right in the eyes and said the word meow. It didn't sound like a cat meowing at all. It sounded very convincingly like a human carefully enunciating the word meow, 2 syllables, in their most thoroughly unconvincing cat voice. Like someone intentionally doing a very poor impression of a cat, as a joke. But it was perfectly in time with the movement of the cat's mouth, and there was no one else around, so it had to have been the cat saying it. I was getting on an airplane and a ginger yelled out for some dude Sebastian at a different gate. When I landed, a different ginger called out for a different Sebastian. I'm Ginger and I work at an airport. Tomorrow during break I'm going to go calling for Sebastian. Every night I go to bed about 2 hours before my husband. I always wake up when he comes into the room. One night he was gaming with a friend, and it was hours later I heard him sneak into the room and crawl across the floor so he could pop up and scare me. I felt the floor kind of shake, and felt him bump clumsily against the side of the bed in the dark. I held out my hand and asked him not to scare me. I was already scared enough and begged him to just take my hand and come to bed. I couldn't see anything in the room, but knew he was there and just waited for him to jump up so I could move on and go back to sleep. That's when I heard him talking to his friend in the other room. I was frozen. I know there's sleep paralysis or lucid dreaming or something that explains this, but I would have sworn on my son's life that someone had crawled across the floor and jostled the bed. Eventually I worked out of the fear enough to grab my phone and text my husband to come in and turn on the lights and check under the bed. But holy shit, it boggles me how real it felt. I'm so glad that something didn't then grab your hand. I was walking my dog. I dropped the leash onto the ground. I heard the plastic hit the ground. But it turns out it ended up back in my hand. Imagine dropping something, hearing and seeing it drop. Then somehow it's in your hand. All under a couple seconds. Probably a weird brain fart. Either you imagined dropping it and your brain was tricked into thinking it actually happened, or it happened and you picked it up without consciously thinking about it. After my little brother was murdered, the next morning I was talking with a friend and he mentioned this other dude I went to high school with. Younger brother had died in a car accident a couple weeks before. Later that day I pull out a slip of paper with this other dude's number and name on it from my pants. I vaguely remember running into him a year or so before this at a club where he gave me his number. I swear I had worn and washed these jeans at least a dozen times since I had run into this dude. I still makes no sense how that paper was there and I only found it then. I called the dude and we talked a bunch. It really helped me deal with the situation. So, this might be hard to explain. I was probably 12 and lived in a big log cabin. One day while my parents were at work, I got in a fight with my brother, 18, who had some anger issues. He chased me through the house and I ran out one door, around our porch, and in through another door. I was going to lock it behind me, but didn't have time because he was too close behind me. So, I slammed the door behind me and kept running. When I glanced back to see if he had made it through the door yet, he was banging on the window of said door and yelling for me to unlock it. The door was locked and there was no way I'd locked it because the door could only be locked from the outside with a key, of course, and our parents never gave us keys. There was also no way the door could have accidentally locked when I slammed it behind me because it needed to be fully turned to lock and usually required some finagling at the end to make it actually lock. I stood there dumbfounded for a few seconds and then ran to a bathroom and locked myself in there. Definitely feel that saved me that day. Edit. The door only had a deadbolt, which could only be locked from the outside with a key, but from the inside you had to turn the knob. Suppose I worded that in a confusing way. Could it be possible that he just assumed the door was locked and reverted to banging on the window? Once as a kid my brother locked me on the deck, and after repeatedly trying to get in I gave up before looking through the window and seeing him and his friend leave the house. I never tried the door again and decided I had to jump off the deck. It was only like 10 feet off the ground, but as a child it was terrifying. Turns out they had unlocked the door well before leaving the house. Nope, I was close enough to the door at that point I could clearly see the lock was turned. I stood there confused as to how it happened for a moment. It isn't creepy, but when I was in high school I had a dream I was in all white classroom, totally white, like the ones you would see in a dream, and a girl was sitting in the chair on my side. During the dream, I knew it was a dream because that girl was a senior. We didn't have common classes. About 6 years later, I was at a master class. The sun was shining bright outside. The classroom was very illuminated, and I see this girl on my side. We are doing masters together and having a class in all white classroom. Of course I remembered the dream at that very moment. I've experienced this often and really feel like this is what déjà vu is. I chalk it up to being in the right place at the right time and find it weirdly comforting. Maybe that's just what I tell myself. I swear to God my mom told me my cousin died from an overdose a year before he actually did. So when she told me and I replied, yeah, from an overdose, right? She was shocked that I already knew. I thought she was somehow messing with me until she showed me his death date. I still can't really explain that one. I don't personally remember this, but I would see my dead grandfather all the time when I was a kid. From the ages of 7 to 9 there was probably 10 different incidents. My dad was an absolute pansy when it came to ghosts, which I don't really believe in, and wanted to take me to the doctor. My dad had one of those bathrooms with a separate toilet room, and no one that lived in the house closed the bathroom door unless they were bathing. I was playing RuneScape and my dad asked why the bathroom door was closed, and I said it's because grandpa's in there. That's the only one I actually remember. There was maybe 2 other bathroom incidents and some incidents when I would sit on the floor and watch TV with my dad, and he would tell me to go sit in the what was once my grandfather's chair and said I couldn't because grandpa was sleeping. I don't know how creepy these are, to be honest, but they freaked out my family for sure. I'm a security guard at a distribution warehouse. Sometimes I have to work graveyard shift. During this time the only people on the premises is me and a rare truck driver bringing in a late load. Our guard shack is concrete, with sliding glass doors on the sides, no locks, and big windows in front and back. Sometimes when I'm the only person on the premises, I'll see a reflection of someone walking past the shack. Every inch of this shack and the yard is covered by security cameras. No one has shown up on the footage when I see these reflections. When I was about 15 I was eating some cereal and accidentally dropped my spoon into the kitchen floor. I watched the spoon fall. As it hit the floor, it just vanished into thin air. I was shocked. I thought surely my eyes were playing tricks on me. It must have just bounced away and gone out of sight or something. I spent 30 minutes searching the kitchen for that spoon. I was honestly kind of freaked out. I tried to think of every possible place it could have gone. There weren't many places it could have ended up. I never found it. There is no spoon. Wasn't all that weird, I guess, but still. When I was a kid there was this house right before the entrance to my subdivision that was in this super deep valley. I remember calling it the house in the hole and thinking about how much it must have sucked when it rained and how great of a sledding hill the sides would make. Then one day we were passing it and there was no valley, it was at the same level as the road. I asked my mom what happened to the hole and she had no idea what I was talking about. To this day, I no longer live there. I always check when I drive past. Sometimes when we are kids things seem so much bigger than when we are adults. I remember this giant pit in the back of my childhood home, and I sometimes drive by and the pit is so freaking tiny. Same with sledding hills that I thought were massive, but were barely hills. Another explanation is someone filled that valley with dirt. I was on vacation on Florida visiting a friend. We were walking on the beach on a perfectly sunny day when everything went black for a second. I think it was weird, but explained it away thinking that my eyes were playing tricks on me until he looked at me and said, "Did everything go black for a second?" The gods were quick saving the simulation. In October 2018, I developed tendonitis in my hand, so I went to see a hand specialist at my regular hospital. I remember the hand specialist really clearly. She was a really happy, talkative Vietnamese woman with straight, dark brown hair and glasses. She had a German-sounding last name, which I assumed was her married name. She was really nice, and we had a long conversation about a medical conference that she goes to. She explained that my hand issues, caused by phone usage, were the hot topic of the conference, and that she'd probably use my injury as an example when she goes there. Anyway, she gave me care instructions and sent me home. I was told to return if it didn't resolve in a few weeks, because then I'd need to be re-examined and sent to physical therapy. It didn't resolve, and I went back. I had an appointment with the same doctor, but the woman who came into the room was completely different. She was a white woman with light brown hair, no glasses, completely different face shape, really dull and unwelcoming disposition. I was so ducking confused. I asked her name, and she gave the same name the Asian doctor had. I asked if there was another doctor by that name, and she told me no, it was only her. I described the doctor I had seen, and she got annoyed and said she didn't know who I was talking about. I later went online to the hospital staff directory and tried to find the Asian doctor. I couldn't. I have no idea what happened to her. I even checked my medical records to see if maybe I remembered her name incorrectly, but I didn't. Both of my visits have the same doctor's name on them. I've always been confused about this, and it really bothers me that I met someone who doesn't seem to exist anymore. To answer some questions, I couldn't tell if the white doctor actually remembered me. When I told her that I was confused about the situation, she just looked at my chart, confirmed that my previous appointment had been with her, and told me that she'd seen me before. I wasn't under the impression that she actually remembered me. I didn't ask a lot of questions because she seemed extremely annoyed with me, like I was wasting her time and she just wanted the appointment to be over. I'm sure that I sounded insane, so I don't blame her for her bad attitude. I don't think the Asian doctor ever told me the name of the conference. She just said that it was a conference for hand specialists, so I haven't been able to look it up. Also, someone asked me if I was intoxicated during the first visit. No, I wasn't. I don't drink or do drugs. I've got several kids and night terrors are always a bit freaky, but once you know it's normal and what it's like, you kind of get used to it. But my middle child had something happen a couple years ago that didn't seem like it could be a night terror. He's almost 5 now, and has been pretty advanced in academics for a while. Somehow learned how to read the names of numbers and colors and such, and I accidentally found out one day when I caught him reading what I had written. He came into my room very upset one night. Night terror. Except he was fully awake. I know they can seem like they're awake, but they're not. But I had him doing math. 3 + 2 is 5. Asking very high level questions about things. He seemed fully alert and aware. But he was seeing something my wife and I could not see. Something threatening and scary. The fly was going to get him. He shrieked ear-piercing screeches, consistently turning away and back to the doorway into my master bath, where he saw this thing that was invisible to me. This happened for a few nights too. I could only reassure him that he was okay and nothing was there, and we would protect him. "You're okay. You're okay," I'd tell him. He always darted down the hallway between his room and mine for a few days after this, reassuring himself by saying, "I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay," as he ran. Poor thing. Freaked my wife and me out completely. There is a sleep condition where you wake up, feel fully cognitive, but are still semi-immersed in a dream that leads to visual and audible hallucinations. When I played baseball as a kid, they were handing out the trophies at the end of the season. They called out the names of the kids while we received our trophies. There happened to be a kid with the same name as me. We met after the ceremony because it was weird, since our last name isn't a very common one. We had the same birthday and everything. We looked alike. Both our dads were named Derek and both of our sisters were named Lily. As a kid, I found it cool. As an adult, I find it cool and also disturbing. In college, I delivered pizzas to make money. I had a delivery that should have taken about 20 minutes. When I returned to the store, the manager asked me what had taken so long. I asked him what he meant, and he pointed to the computer showing I had been gone for an hour and 7 minutes. I don't remember delivering the pizza, only turning into the store when I was returning. I also don't drink or use drugs. 20 years later, I still have no idea what happened. This happened around 1991. It's the middle of the night. I'm standing in my sister's living room, and it must be a full moon, because even though it's around 1 AM and the lights are off, I can see clearly. There's a mixing bowl with popcorn kernels in the bottom on the floor in front of the TV and some rental VHS in a pile nearby. I hear a noise and turn around to see my sister's normally very friendly Labrador retriever looking like Cujo. Fangs bared, snarling, hackles raised. Suddenly there's a bright flash of light, and I wake up like I hit the bed from a great height. I think that was a weird dream. Eventually, I fall back to sleep, and in the morning I call my sister, planning to tell her the story, but she preempts me by telling me about the weird thing that happened in the night. They woke up to the sound of the dog snarling at about 1 AM. Her husband thought there was a prowler in the house, got a gun, and went to find the dog. She was standing in the living room snarling at the middle of the room. He couldn't see anyone, so he flipped on the light. No one was there. The dog instantly stopped snarling and walked to her bed like nothing had happened. He checked the property and went back to bed. We talked a bit, and I found out they watched some rental movies, and of course we had popcorn. Why? My sister is a little woo-woo at times, so I decided not to tell her about my night. She lived about 450 miles away, by the way. How the hell, you tryna tell me you accidentally astral projected? Even more, the dog knew I was there,